Welcome to Fruitport High School's meteorology class. This is the first lecture, which is an introduction to the National Weather Service. So the National Weather Service began in 1870, and it was actually used to make observations at military stations and at other points in the states and territories. The government agency was part of the Department of War, Department of Defense, and you'll see throughout this PowerPoint how it changed to different departments to where it is now. At the beginning of the National Weather Service, they had 22 stations with observing sergeants that telegraphed Washington, D.C. And today, the National Weather Service is an agency that affects the daily lives of most U.S. citizens. One of the goals of this class is to make you and actually use you to make people you know, or not make, but I guess to inspire people you know to become weather ready. One of the goals of the National Weather Service is to create a weather ready nation where people are prepared for severe weather and able to take necessary precautions when watches and warnings are issued. So here's an early picture of the National Weather Service. You can see the different employees working around the desk. And again, what they did is they collected data and telegraphed that to Washington, D.C. for Washington, D.C. to use with the military. And then here's a more present picture. That is me on the left. A couple summers ago, I traveled out to Kansas City, Missouri, and was able to work at the National Weather Service in Kansas City. So that's a picture of the NOAA building and the Aviation Center in Kansas City, Missouri. Here's an old picture of a balloon launch. We'll talk a little bit about balloon launches later on this semester and how those balloons are used to collect data. And then here's a more present picture of a balloon launch. This one's from Topeka, Kansas, the National Weather Service in Kansas. And then the actual aviation center on the right there in Kansas, or in actually the National Weather Service building in Topeka, Kansas. And you can see the different meteorologists and how their office is set up. And again, with the balloon launch, we'll talk more about that later on this semester, but those balloon launches are used to collect data and use that data to create a better forecast. Okay, a little more history of the National Weather Service. In 1890, the National Weather Service became the U.S. Weather Bureau as part of the Department of Agriculture. And even to this day, the National Weather Service is key to providing farmers and other employees in the agricultural department specific weather reports to help them grow the best crops. Then in 1940, it was renamed the National Weather Service, and in 1970, it was placed under NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And we'll refer to NOAA quite a bit throughout this class. You can see the seal of NOAA down there at the bottom of the PowerPoint. Okay, so here's the actual purpose of the National Weather Service. The purpose is to provide weather, hydrologic, and climate forecasts and warnings for the United States, its territories, the adjacent waters, and ocean areas. And the key purpose is to protect life and property. National Weather Service meteorologists and other employees of the service work around the clock to protect life and property from severe weather situations that occur. Another key aspect of the National Weather Service is to protect the economy. Not many people know how much money these natural disasters end up costing the United States once they occur. Billions and billions of dollars from some of these natural disasters. National Weather Service data and products form a national information base that can be used by different people throughout the country, including schools. When schools close down due to severe weather or winter storms, they get a lot of that information from the National Weather Service. The mission is accomplished by providing warnings and forecast of hazardous weather, including thunderstorms, flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, winter weather, tsunamis, and climate events. And I do have another YouTube video on here that goes over how those watches and warnings are issued by looking at the National Weather Service site and clicking on a specific National Weather Service region. And then the National Weather Service is the sole United States official voice for issuing warnings during life-threatening weather situations. When your TV meteorologist comes on the air, when there's a thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning or a winter storm warning, those warnings are issued through the National Weather Service, and the on-air meteorologist is the one that relays that information to us. Okay, so a little breakdown of the National Weather Service. There are 122 forecast offices. You can see the map over here and all of the forecast offices throughout the United States. If we go closer to home here in Michigan, we have 4 different offices that cover the state of Michigan. Ours is the Grand Rapids National Weather Service office, but Michigan also includes the one in Detroit, Gaylord, and up in the Upper Peninsula, the National Weather Service out of Marquette. But here is the breakdown of the 122 forecast offices around the United States. The forecast issues forecasts 2 to 4 times daily. Here in Grand Rapids, we usually get a forecast around 3:30 a.m. and then again at 3:30 p.m. And I'll show you those forecasts. You'll become familiar with reading those forecasts. There's a lot of terminology that broadcast meteorologists don't throw into their forecast because it's bigger, more difficult meteorological terms. But we'll learn how to read those, and you'll become familiar with all the different terminology that those meteorologists use in issuing their forecasts. Within these 122 forecast offices, 20 to 50 counties are covered. And if you click on the link down at the bottom down here, this will bring you to the National Weather Service that we use out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. One of the goals of this class, or one of the learning targets for this class, is that you will be able to identify all of the counties in our warning area. Not only is it important that you know when severe weather watches and warnings are issued, but you've got to know who they're issued for. And if you don't know the counties that border Muskegon County, then you have a more difficult time understanding where the severe weather is happening. Okay, so here's how the staff is made up in each of those 122 offices. There's a meteorologist in charge. There's a warning coordination meteorologist, the science and operations officer, the technology officer, the service hydrologist, the senior forecast, and then even interns that work within the building. And usually these National Weather Service offices are pretty open to the public. So if you would like to take a tour of the building, you could contact them. I know when we visited the building in Topeka, Kansas, they were very open with showing us all the different forms of technology, what their shift consists of, how many hours they work, and what they do on a daily basis. Okay, along with the National Weather Service regional offices or state offices, there's also river forecast centers. They issue daily a hydrology report, and that comes from the River Forecast Center. They provide river and flood forecasts and warnings for the protection of lives and property. Living here in Michigan, you know that we often have beach hazard warnings or lakeshore erosion warnings. And then with the many rivers around us, they'll issue flood watches and flood warnings if the river levels become too high. There's also an aviation unit, 21 different air route traffic control centers. These aviation traffic control centers provide forecasts that affect the national airspace. And they look at things such as turbulence, thunderstorms, icing, and any precipitation that pilots may come across in their flight path. These aviation centers also collect data from the pilots themselves. If the pilots experience turbulence in their flight, they will relay that message back to these traffic control centers, and the weather service units will then put those within the forecast for future flights by pilots. So here's a picture of the Aviation Weather Center in Kansas City, Missouri. This aviation center actually works for the entire globe. Working around the clock to, again, issue different things that pilots should look for as they're flying from one destination to another. Okay, and then the National Weather Service can also be broken down into different service regions. There are 7 service regions around the United States. You can see those on the map here. Here in Michigan, we're part of the Kansas City, Missouri Central region. There's also other stations for specific weather conditions. And those consist of the Storm Prediction Center out of Norman, Oklahoma. In the summertime, when we have a tornado watch or a thunderstorm warning, a tornado warning, they'll often say that it's issued from the Storm Prediction Center out of Norman, Oklahoma. Or the SPC, we'll talk a lot about the SPC website and how they issue outlooks for days 1, 2, and 3, and then for the week ahead. There's also the National Hurricane Center out of Miami. Climate Prediction Center that gives you forecasts for 8 to 14 days out and 6 to 10 days out, and whether it's supposed to be close to normal, above normal, or near normal temperatures, and also above, below, or near normal precipitation. Okay, so careers in meteorology, there's different colleges around the nation that are known for their meteorology degrees and atmospheric science. Here in Michigan, the ones that only offer undergraduate degrees would be Central Michigan and Mount Pleasant, and then also Michigan State and East Lansing. And you can see the region around here, and the colleges that meet the National Weather Service requirements are the ones in blue, and the ones that do not meet the National Weather Service requirements are in yellow. So again, only undergraduate right here in Michigan, Central, and Michigan State. The ones that offer both undergrad and graduate degrees in meteorology here in Michigan would be University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And you can see around the region which ones, again, offer degrees for both undergrad and graduate studies. Within this PowerPoint, which I'll share the PowerPoint with you also, if you're in my class, I'll share it with you in the Google Classroom. But there are different YouTube videos that touch on different things such as careers in meteorology and the classes that meteorology students take in college. Another thing that we often view is short YouTube videos from Dr. John Neese, who's a professor at Penn State University. You'll get to know him and his videos quite well throughout the Fruitport High School meteorology class. There's a lot of great information on these videos, and it's on the Penn State eWall meteorology site if you want to look more into those videos. Okay, and then the last couple of videos just talk about and reinforce this PowerPoint about what the National Weather Service is and the goals for the National Weather Service for what they hope to relay to the general public. And that is it for the presentation on the intro to the National Weather Service. Again, check out weather.gov. Again, that's weather.gov. And that will bring you to the National Weather Service homepage. Play around with that page a little bit. Click on some of the different colors on that page and read about some of the watches and warnings that are issued through the National Weather Service.